Before we start this, we have a ton of super important updates because there's a lot of really cool stuff coming this year that we've been working on over the past couple months. If you stay to the end, I'd really appreciate that. All right, let's get into Trigun. So nearly 3 years ago, Trigun Stampede hit our screens to a wave of mixed reactions. Some people hated it outright, others loved it, some liked the story but couldn't get past the look, and a lot of longtime fans felt it wasn't faithful to the '98 anime. I walked away from Stampede with mixed feelings of my own. There were character moments I wish had more room to breathe, but I also had a strong suspicion about what Studio Orange was actually building towards. In our video on Stampede, I theorized that this wasn't a full retelling of Trigun at all, but a prequel and deliberate lead up to July's destruction, and that the real story would begin after a time skip with Vash living under the name Eric's. And while I'm not always right, I did nail this one.
It's likely that we're actually going to get to see how the destruction of July changes Vash's character and how it affects his relationships with all of his friends. There may even be a big time skip after that. I expect that July's destruction is going to be the climax of season 1, and it'll set the show on course for what we would have expected from a Trigun reboot. So set your bets on that now.
That's exactly what happens, and what I genuinely loved about Stampede is that it finally felt like we were moving forward towards the Trigun story the '98 anime never had the chance to tell. And that's not a knock against the original, it's just the reality of how it was made. The '98 anime was adapting the original Trigun manga before Trigun Maximum even existed, so Naito didn't even know if he'd get to finish the story at all. Shonen Captain, the magazine publishing Trigun, went under, and when an anime adaptation was offered, he took it even though most of the narrative hadn't been written yet, because you gotta get the bag. But Trigun did get picked up again in a seinen magazine, and the rest of the story was told through Trigun Maximum, and when you read Maximum, it's obvious just how much more was always waiting beneath the surface. Trigun Stampede felt like the first adaptation positioned to finally explore that side of Trigun with the heavier philosophical spine of the story. So when Trigun Stargaze finally arrived, I wanted to love it. This is the adaptation I've been waiting for. This felt like the moment everything had been building towards. This was supposed to be the story Stampede was clearing the runway for, and yet 6 episodes in, Stargaze has not gripped me the way Stampede did, even though this is the part of the story I've always wanted to see. Stargaze opens by stripping away almost everything that made Trigun immediately inviting. Vash is gone, and when he does appear, he's barely there at all. The humor is gone, the warmth is gone, even the people who once grounded Vash in something resembling normal life are gone. What we're left with is the aftermath, a broken catatonic Vash without any light on the horizon. And I don't think that choice is a mistake, but I do think it fundamentally changes how this story feels. So today I want to break down why Stargaze hasn't connected with me yet, how this version of Trigun is rearranging when and how the story hurts, and why the emotional weight they're pushing might not land the way they intended. And this isn't a rejection of Trigun's darker themes, it's the formation of an important question. What happens when an adaptation gives you what you ask for, but it's still not what you truly wanted? Let's get into it. Hey, so I heard you might be a Trigun fan, and that's great because I have a surprise for you. This video is sponsored by Figurama Collectors. Guys, we've worked with them before, and they are back with us, supporting us again, thanks to their new Vash bust. It is the first Vash bust ever made worldwide. That alone makes this a historic collectible. The concept, though, is iconic. Vash bursting out of his $60 billion double dollar wanted poster. If you've seen Figurama's work in the past, you know just how high quality their figures are. They are the best in the business. This bust is no exception. Pre-orders for this are already live, and this is a limited edition piece, and they often sell out extremely quickly, so if you are interested, get one now before they are gone. It is $250 total, but this is something that is going to last your entire life. That being said, you only need a $50 non-refundable deposit. There's a payment plan as well that's available for up to 4 months, as low as $50 a month, so get it before they're gone and use my code BPVASH to get $15 off. The link is in the description. Thank you so much to Figurama for working with us yet again, but for now, let's get back to the video and talk about the anime. Now, one of the biggest changes Stargaze makes is in its timing. In the 98 anime, July is already gone in episode 1. The world is post-tragedy from the start, but the show does not feel tragic off the rip. We ease into that weight slowly. We get Goofy Vash, the insurance girls, strange little cowboy podunk towns, and episodic stories that feel closer to a sci-fi western comedy than a tragedy. The damage is part of the world, but it sits in the background while we learn who Vash is on the surface. And while we get glimpses of that darker side to the story, it doesn't really come to fruition until episode 17. It's a slow burn, and Stampede flips that. Instead of July being distant history, we watch it happen. We see the buildup, the tension, the inevitability, and the fallout that already moves one of the most important emotional events in Trigun from the background into the foreground. We're not told the world is broken, we see it break in real time. And on top of that, Lost July is almost combined with the fifth moon incident. In the manga, these are two separate events, and it's only after the fifth moon that Vash disappears for 2 years and becomes Eric. See our Trigun video where we go over the entire manga. Here, the impact and weight of both events are stacked together, which accelerates the emotional timeline in a big way. And that shift in timing has a very direct consequence. It changes who Vash is when we meet him again, not just where he is in the story, but what state he's in as a person. And in the original anime and the manga, when Vash becomes Eric's, he's hiding, but he's still Vash. He talks, he jokes, he helps people. There's a sense that he's choosing to step away from the world, not that the world has completely hollowed him out. And to be fair, we do get a flashback that Vash was worse off than when we see him and he had to be nursed back to health. Eric's is defined by guilt, exhaustion, and self-imposed exile, but there's still agency there. You can feel that Vash is still making decisions, still trying to live with what he's done. Stargaze presents something extremely different. This version of Eric's is barely functional. He doesn't speak, he barely eats. He's not Vash at all. This isn't a man in hiding, it's someone who is completely shut down. This is not Vash trying to carry the weight of what happened. This feels like Vash has been crushed by it. And that difference might sound subtle, but it changes the emotional shape of the story. In older versions, Eric's is a pause, right? A withdrawal before the next stage. We're watching Vash process, retreat, and slowly find a reason to step back into the world. But in Stargaze, it feels like we skipped the processing stage entirely and just collapsed. Even the people around him reflect that change. In previous versions, Lena and her grandmother represent this warmth, this normal life, and the possibility that Vash can still exist in a world and not just be suffering. They ground him. They remind us that even in exile, he's still connected irrevocably to humanity. Here, that role is replaced with Hopper. Instead of domestic warmth, we get another damaged survivor. Instead of healing, the dynamic feels closer to mutual endurance. The message shifts from you can still have a place in this world to living with suffering and enduring. We are not discovering that Vash is broken, we are being handed a version of him that is already broken and asked to sit with that from the start. Stargaze is putting a lot of its impact on the emotional weight Vash is feeling. Now, that's not inherently a bad choice. I really like that Stargaze is trying to give Vash an emotional depth he might not have had before. But this is where things start to feel less like a tonal shift and more like a structural gamble, because it's not just Vash's emotional state that feels accelerated, it's the story around him. We're about halfway into Stargaze, and we have already burned through material that in older versions of Trigun functioned as major escalation points. Multiple gung-ho guns are already gone. Conflicts that were used to signal the story entering a more dangerous phase are now happening near the beginning of the series. And in case you're somehow watching this without having ever seen the show or read the manga, this is your spoiler warning, okay? Here we go. Hopper grabbing Vash's hand and forcing Vash to kill him is a bold choice. I'm not convinced that it was the right one. Hopper is a pretty minor character in the manga, so I get moving his purpose earlier to fit the needs of this darker storytelling, but I don't like that Vash killed him even if Hopper forced him to. I don't know. Down the line, we're going to get that iconic turning point, right? Where Vash is forced to choose whether or not to kill Legato. This is the massive turning point, both in the original anime and in the manga, where Vash is forced to confront his ideals versus reality. Vash is the gunman that doesn't kill. He always finds a way to save everyone involved, but he is a paradox. The scene where Legato forces Vash to break his own rule is one of the most important ones in the entire series, if not the most important one. The idea of Vash having shot anyone fatally, even if it was someone literally forcing his hand, lessens the impact of this upcoming pivotal scene down the line, and that really brings me to my main point. Stargaze feels intense. Like, every episode is heavy, important, and consequential, but it also makes the story feel very compressed. Like, we're moving through Trigun Maximum events at a pace that doesn't leave much room to breathe between them, and that will likely lessen the impact of the most important scenes because we're adding so much emotional impact to scenes that didn't originally have them. And I'm not entirely sure why. I guess my best guess would be because they want to make sure that they are hooking people into the anime every single week, right? They don't want to lose people. They want to make money on the anime. But when that compromises the integrity of the original story, it kind of sucks and comes off a little cheap. But in the manga especially, the weight of the story doesn't just come from what happens, it comes from this rhythmic up and down, right? Naito constantly lets the tone swing back and forth. Moments of horror are followed by moments of quiet. Vash is allowed to stumble, recover a little, and then get knocked down again. That escalation is what makes the suffering feel human instead of just overwhelming. But then again, it's 2026, what should we expect? Regardless, Stargaze feels like it's flattening that pendulum swing of emotions. The highs are still there, but the valleys and the pauses, the time where we see Vash simply existing, are much harder to find. The series is really trying to cover all of Trigun Maximum in a single season, then it's not just compressing plot, it's compressing emotional cycles. And when you step back and look at all of this together, the timeline shift, Vash starting in collapse, the rapid pacing, it becomes clear that Stargaze is taking a very specific swing at the story. It's trying to be the most emotionally impactful and heart-wrenching version of Trigun that we've ever seen, and that's not automatically a bad thing. This is not a negative review per se. In fact, it's kind of exciting. For years, fans have said they wanted a Trigun adaptation that fully embraced the darker and more philosophical side of the manga. Stargaze looks like it is genuinely attempting that. But there is a difference between intensity and depth, and a difference between intensity and weight. The original anime and the manga understood something very important. The lighter moments were not filler, they were there to contrast the tragedy to make it hit harder. They gave the audience space to breathe, to reconnect with Vash as a person, not just a symbol of suffering, because the last thing we need right now is to feel more miserable all the time. You gotta have a little bit of levity. I'm pretty sure that's why animals can fart.
Oh my god.
I don't know if we're keeping that in. Now, if you look at the death of Wolfwood in the manga, it is one of the quietest moments in the entire story. It stands out because it is this one moment of solace surrounded by the loudness of action and fighting at the end of this long journey. And that difference in tone makes this death so impactful. And to this day, it continues to stick in my mind and the mind of all Trigun fans. If everything is heavy like that all the time, nothing stands out. Without rhythm, even meaningful pain can start to feel numbing. I think we all kind of intuitively understand how that works. Constantly being bombarded by negativity makes you just kind of blank out. That's the line that Stargaze is trying to walk. It's leaning so hard into the aftermath and the trauma and the consequences that it risks losing the emotional texture that made Trigun's darkness feel earned or worse, instead of just like relentlessly pounding you with it. And none of this, okay, means that Stargaze is doomed or that its approach doesn't work. In fact, the reason all of this is so interesting is because it's such a big swing. It's like a reimagining instead of a remake. Who knows, this might end up being the most ambitious Trigun adaptation. Well, I mean, yes, it is the most ambitious Trigun adaptation we've ever seen. There's been like 3. But that ambition comes with risk. Trigun at its core has never just been a story about suffering or a goofy dude with spiky hair and donuts. It's a story about what people choose in the face of suffering. It's about a man who is tortured inside but still brings happiness to people in spite of that. It's about finding forgiveness in yourself and recognizing that your ideals cannot always align with reality, and that is okay, it's inevitable. But right now, Stargaze is leaning very much into the damage, into the trauma and the guilt and the aftermath. And we all understand that Vash is kind of this Christ-like character, right? But like, that's not all, that's not all Jesus did. There was like some fish in the Bible or something like that. That could be fun, right?
I just want to catch my fish, dry my fish.
This is only going to work if the story eventually gives Vash and us room to see something else, maybe some connection, some hope, room for the parts of his character that are not just defined by what he's lost. And we're kind of running out of time for that to happen. We're 6 episodes in, trying to cover the rest of Trigun Maximum, and 6 more episodes is a massive ask. There's so much to get through and so many characters that need screen time. Again, check out our very long video on the Trigun manga. But I'm feeling like we're really blowing through characters as fast as possible just to get to plot points. Already the Earth ships are coming for the people of No Man's Land. They're only 6 months away. In Trigun Maximum, it's 10 years between Lost July and the Earth ships arriving. That's a massive amount of timeline condensing. There needs to be enough time for Vash to actually go through the stages of change that turn him into the version of himself we see at the end of Maximum. It's not like I went from 21 to 22 and became a better person. No, that took a long time. It took a long time for that young man to turn into who I am now, like maybe 6 years, something like that. Who knows? I'm just saying, if you're going to condense that into 6 episodes, there's a lot of, it's going to be rushed. That's rushing. And mostly I still want this to work. I want to see this version of the story stick the landing, but I think there's a real reason to be concerned. This show is so focused on maximizing emotional damage that it might not give Vash the time he needs to change because of it. Trigun has never just been about how much pain Vash can handle and take, like the little pain piggy he is. It's about how he changes because of it. If this series doesn't give room for that change to happen, then all of this suffering risks feeling like noise instead of meaning, and this show is only going to be for sadists. The original Trigun was 24 episodes long, and it took its time to let us see Vash being happy and sad and dejected, recover, and continue on. Stargaze is only 12 episodes and is not only trying to tell the same story kind of from Lost July to Earthship's arrival, but in half the runtime. The animation is beautiful. Okay, the fight's sick. The show is visually excellent, but I was really hoping that Studio Orange was going to be given enough time to fully let the story play out like it needs to, and instead it feels like they're trying to speedrun a gung-ho gun an episode just so they can fit everything in, because let's be honest, Isekai makes more money for like a tenth of the budget. And to put this into perspective, Trigun Stampede covered the Trigun manga, everything before Trigun Maximum. It's 2 volumes, 20 chapters, and 12 episodes, which is pretty decent. Stargaze covers all of Trigun Maximum, and that's 97 chapters over 14 volumes. Do you see where I'm getting at here? There's just no way to give the storyline the proper amount of time for the impact that it should have, and I'm really feeling how rushed it is while watching. I think Stargaze needed a minimum of 24 episodes by itself to fully cover the events of Trigun Maximum appropriately. And even then, you'd run into a ReZero Season 2 issue. You know what I'm talking about? But who knows? Maybe they pull off a spectacular second half of the series and I'll be left impressed, but I think it's more likely that Trigun Stargaze's impact is going to be forgotten relatively quickly compared to both the original series and Stampede. And it doesn't really bode well for a lot of the anime remakes that have been teased or leaked or whatever going forward. We're talking about the One Piece one, potentially Yu Yu Hakusho, the Rurouni Kenshin show that's not really getting a lot of press. Of course, that last one is a little, it's understandable. But I'm curious about what you think. Like, am I just being too hard on this? Are you enjoying Stargaze? Think I'm overreacting, or that it's an appropriate way to cover, like 97 chapters of an anime, or maybe it's just not worth going into all the detail. I'm honestly curious, like, what have you even seen online? Because I don't read or watch any reviews before writing my own. That way it's genuine when it comes out of me. Let me know. So here is the very exciting news I promised you in the beginning. We, first, are back on track with the podcast.
So what's the deal here?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Bonsai Podcast. I'm your host, Mike.
I'm host, Tyler.
That means every single week you get a Bonsai Popcast and a Popcast Premium if you're Super Saiyan 2 or above in the Patreon. So that's 3 to 4 hours of content every week. But that's not all. We've also been releasing Patreon exclusive videos every week, available to all tiers, or a one-time purchase if you just want to test it out. Eventually, it's all going to go on our upcoming second channel, which you'll be getting that content free, sometimes months after it releases on the Patreon. We have 2 new series tentatively titled The Wheel of Years and Bonsai Pop Watches Pokemon. Here's some clips.
2005.
2005. Okay, so what is this called again?
So this is called, I believe it's Karas or Karas. Oh my god, Mike, it's a holiday movie.
Perfect.
Perfect. You gonna watch a guy take a shit? Yep.
No, he's just wiping, dude.
Whoa.
Or maybe doing a little bit more. Maybe he's doing a little bit more. This guy's just trying to finger his hole, dude. There's people fucking it up for him. Is a bathroom public? Like, is it inside of a bathroom stall public?
It's literally called a public bathroom, so yeah.
So you're telling me I can't finger my own butt at the bathroom stall in the mall?
Dude,
you happy now?
He clogged the shit out of that bathroom.
You sinned in public and a woman died. Here we go. Gotta catch them all, gotta catch them all, gotta catch them all, gotta catch them. Remember, kids. Is that Brawly?
Is that Bruno? Wow, he can tie his own shoes.
That one was also taken by a kid who wasn't late.
Yeah, you little fucking asshole.
No problem.
It's the most important day of your fucking life. You wake up late.
You can have the blue light special Pokemon.
You can have the broken one. I packed your diapers and I packed your packed your lollies for you because you're a big boy now, Ash.
And a pair of rubber gloves to do your
I got you your
laundry.
rubber gloves for you know what. As well as additional one-shot videos like when we played Japan World Cup. Here's another clip.
You gotta be careful about those
right.
gold chip-esque horses in the back, you know?
Exactly. I'm not a big pace chaser guy, you know what I mean?
Here we go, they're starting to pull out their ultimate moves.
Bring it around town.
Oh, here we go!
What?
Pulling through! Get out of the way! Let's go! Yes! Let's go, burning beef! That is #1!
This is all on top of our weekly watch parties where we dive into classic anime movies and OVAs with the patrons, and most of our content is recorded live with certain Patreon tiers. We are also doing a monthly book club. Last month we did Gunsmith Cats. We just wrapped it up and it went really well. It was really fun interacting with people in that way. This month we're reading Die Dark. Again, available to all tiers. On top of that, we are in development with new and improved merch. I'm very excited for what we have coming down the pipe that way. And lastly, you're not going to be seeing as much of us this year here on the main channel, simply because we are going back to what we do best, which is making long, in-depth, definitive videos on a specific topic, usually an anime or a manga, sometimes a movie, who knows. There may be a couple videos like this one here and there. We love working with Figurama, so when they come calling, we come and make a video for you. But our next video is going to be on the entire story of Yu-Gi-Moto from Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga and all. Pre-production is mostly done, but it is slated to be around 3+ hours long. So look forward to that when it comes out. And if you have $3 a month to keep us going while we make these crazy videos, it'd mean a lot, and you get a ton back, everything that I just mentioned. Anyway, that's it. And that's all. We'll see you when Yu-Gi-Oh! Is done. Get hype. Goodbye.